Welcome everyone to our show today. You got me, your host, Landon Sikahema, and joining us here today, we have our esteemed guest, Mr. Barrett Brooks. How you doing?
I'm good. How's everything going?
Good. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey man, long time no see, man. I'm connected with your family, man. So of course I had to be on the podcast.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it, man. I want to talk about your career a little bit first before I go into getting your analysis about, the Eagles and our playoff run now. So correct me if I'm wrong. I think everyone kind of knows the story about you and my dad and the shoes. You grew up in St. Louis, correct?
Yeah, I grew up in St. Louis.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, you were drafted in the second round of the 95 draft to the Eagles. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yep.
And you started right away. Oh, go ahead.
I was the second pick. Mike Mamula was the first round. Me and Bobby Taylor. Bobby Taylor went first, and I went second in the second round. So yeah. Second round pick number 58.
Oh, so the Eagles had two picks in the second round.
Yes, they had Bobby Taylor, who ended up playing, a long time, really good player.
Yeah, of course.
And myself.
Oh, okay. And Mike, that famous Mike Mamula pick. Yeah, again, I'm sure he's a good guy. I'm sure you're friends with him, but yeah, it's famous in Philly lore, especially because we could have had Warren Sapp, but we passed up on him.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but that's how it goes.
I think we got the better guy as far as, being a better guy. But, I'll say this, Mamula played well, but being that first round pick, man, it really puts a lot more pressure on you than being a second round pick.
Yeah. There's so much pressure, and it's too much pressure for anyone, I think,
Yep.
So
you're absolutely right.
But okay, nice. So you were the second round pick along with Bobby Taylor in 95. And correct me if I'm wrong, you started right away in your rookie season, correct?
I started my rookie year, went in, and they really drafted me to be a guard. And I was going to play guard, but I don't know if you heard about it, but Bernard Williams couldn't stop smoking weed. So he got suspended for the year, and I had to step in and play tackle. And then they had to bring in Guy McIntyre from the 49ers. And he started left guard, and I started left tackle. Playing left tackle in the league back then was tough. I mean,
it's the blind side, right?
Yeah, and blind side, yeah. So I'm playing against guys like Mr. White. You guys may call him Reggie White. Mr. White. I call him Mr. White. Charles Haley, Bruce Smith, Leslie O'Neal. The list goes on and on about all those great pass rushers back then. I had to play against them all at the left tackle position.
Oh, that's crazy. So what did you start at in college then, if not left tackle?
I started left tackle. In college all 4 years. Well, I went 5 years. I started 4 years there. I redshirted my freshman year. I redshirted, and now I played the rest 4 years at left tackle.
Okay, but they just drafted you to put you at guard.
Yeah.
But then due to that other guy's issues, they moved you to back to your spot at left tackle.
Right. They actually thought I was too small to play, too short to play tackle. Even though I was 6'4.5", they said I was too small. So once I had to start, it was history ever since then.
Well, that's amazing. Now, I got to make sure I got my history and the names right. You said they had Guy McIntyre. Is that the same Guy McIntyre on the Niners that led to the issue with the fridge in 1984? Like in 1984, the Niners beat, again, I know, you were younger. I mean, it was before my dad even gave you those shoes or whatever, but is that the same Guy McIntyre that in 1984, the Niners beat the Bears in the NFC Championship game and to rub their nose in the dirt? They put Guy McIntyre in the backfield to rub their nose in the dirt. And then that's why in 85, in the famous 85 Bears season, they get a rematch against the Niners. They're killing the Niners, and to repay the favor, that's when they put the fridge in the backfield. Is that the same Guy McIntyre?
Exact same Guy McIntyre. Pro Bowler, all-world guard. They put him in. He was a good athlete, though. He was one of the best guys pulling around the corner. I mean, he's the really one that really showed how you could have an athletic guard that could pull and hit linebackers at the second level, hit safeties. He was great at doing that.
I didn't realize he was with the Eagles at that time.
Yeah.
Wow. And
we also had Riley McKenzie. He was one of the original Hogs at center.
Oh, really? On the Redskins?
Yes.
He played guard?
He was our center.
Oh, Okay.
And then right next year we had Lester Holmes, and then we had Anton Davis. You know, he was a first rounder
In
the year
92?
before Bernard Williams. Yep, Anton Davis.
Yeah, I think he was a first rounder for the Eagles. My dad's first year with the Eagles in 92.
Yep. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Crazy. Was so Guy McIntyre and that center from the one of the original Hogs, were they still starting your rookie year in 95?
Yes, yes. In fact, they're the only ones that kept me going. Talking to those guys, I had veteran guys that I could go to at any time, and that's crucial when you're a young guy starting at left tackle. You don't know anything about anything. The famous thing my coaches would tell me, you don't know what you don't know. And that used to drive me crazy. I said, of course I don't know what I don't know, but what don't I know? Tell me what I need to know. And Guy McIntyre and Riley McKenzie were the ones that, kind of coached me through the process of being a rookie, being an offensive line, taking care of myself. And I attribute that to me playing 12 years in the NFL because of, tutelage like that, Guy McIntyre, Riley McKenzie, who took me under their arm. So it worked out pretty well that I was with veteran guys that really helped me to be a professional.
Now that really was that valuable to you, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I've always been in a blessed position where I'm around people that are genuine people, number one, but people that that are God-fearing, and plus they care about people. And the people all around, they cared about people. They cared about who I was as a player, not just me being right next to them and me knowing the calls and me making sure that I was playing the right way. But they also were, great at just showing me how to be a man in the NFL. I'm coming from college. I don't know anything. Here I am going from eating hamburger helper with no hamburger in it, eating filet mignon because I think I got a lot of money. And they really told me, you don't have a lot of money. Save that money and make sure you put that money away because it won't last forever. It won't last forever.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. And it's amazing
Yeah.
to hear, the reality was it really was such a tough transition in some ways, and a different transition at least, but they gave you advice, the financial advice and just life advice about how to navigate, the crazy NFL life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And people don't understand that when you're in the NFL, it really does stand for not National Football League, but not for long. The average NFL career is 3 years and 3 games. That's why in order to qualify for your pension, you have to get into your 4th year. You have to. So if you don't get into your 4th year and play 3 games into your 4th year, you don't qualify for the NFL pension. So, having somebody that could keep me grounded, keep me out of the clubs, making sure I was eating the right things, doing the right things, getting my rest, all that stuff mattered to me at the time because I didn't know how to put my body in a position to do that. And, it helped me out a lot that they really did help me. I mean, my senior year, I'm going to the blood banks and I'm giving blood on Friday to have $25 to go out with Saturday night after the game. When you give blood, you're not supposed to do anything for 2 or 3 days. I'm playing in a college football game the next day at 1:00. So, man, I've really been blessed to even be in a position now getting drafted in the 2nd round. I didn't know any better.
That's amazing. That's really cool to hear. So yeah, you're starting your rookie year. You guys go to the playoffs, under Ray Rhodes. Tell me, I know that maybe this is more a question for some of the defense, but I still remember to this day. I know you've been back in Philly all these years and people talk about it, but that regular season game against Dallas in the Vet, where I still think it's legendary, and people will say I wasn't at that game personally, but people still say the legendary Vet may never have been louder than when they stuffed Emmitt Smith. I don't know, was it 3 times in a row, like 4th and 1, they stuffed him, and then, got called offside, so they got another chance, and then, they called the same play, and our defense stuffed him again. That was a legendary game. Do you have any specific memories about that game in particular, or not necessarily?
First of all, it was probably one of the coldest games I played that year. I was freezing. And, it kept us from, if they'd have won, we'd have been out of the playoffs. And, it just really put us in a position where we we needed that game. And I can remember, just being out there and really being in a position where I'm looking at it. They ran the play and then they stopped them. I was like, oh my God, they stopped them. So it was great. It was definitely great. Them able to do that.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really awesome.
Or they stopped him again, Merrill Reese. They stopped him again.
Yeah, yes. Oh my gosh, yeah. I can tell you're back in Philly for all these years. Yeah,
Absolutely.
oh, that's so awesome. Um, now tell me, I know you guys went back to the playoffs the next year in '96. Rodney Peete got hurt, so Ty Detmer stepped in and took you guys to the playoffs. Was John Gruden the offensive coordinator in '95 and '96?
Yes, he was all the way up to 90. He left and he became the head coach of the Raiders in 97.
Okay,
he
but those
left
2
then.
years
So
you
I
guys
was
went to the
with him for years.
playoffs. Yeah,
Yeah, 2 years went to the playoffs. He was the guy, and I can remember, the relationships that him and Ricky Waters had. It was crazy. I mean, it was so it was so animated because it was almost like those guys hated each other.
really?
They hated each other, but they had so much respect for each other. And the stuff that John Gruden would call and put guys in great positions. And we had another great running back there in Charlie Garner.
Yes.
And
Who would follow Gruden to the Raiders?
right. And he was an incredible player, so they didn't really like each other either. So
Really?
you have two great backs back there. And one would get the lion's share of carries, and that's Ricky Waters. So he would have 100 yards in a game, and he'd have 20 carries. But then you put Charlie Garner in there, he'd have 8 carries and also have 100 yards.
Wow.
So, there were times where he would come in the game and Ricky would be like, you guys aren't blocking me like you're blocking for Ricky. I said, no, for Charlie. I said, no, that's not the case. And then finally, Riley McKenzie broke it down. Hey, it's not that we're not blocking the same plays, but you give Charlie this much and he'll take a mile because he understands that he may not get reps later on. We give it to you 8 yards here, 3 yards here, 7 yards here, 10 yards here, 3 yards here, and you get it systematically throughout the game. Charlie only gets one chance. So he makes sure he takes advantage of every chance he gets. So he might break for 60 yards and then break off for 15 yards. And, and as the game goes, they both have 120 yards, 105 yards, respectively.
That's interesting. So, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, how strong was this turmoil? Between the running backs in the line, between the running backs and each other, between the running backs and John Gruden? Was there kind of was there a strong amount of tension all the way around, or did it affect you guys much, or?
No, it didn't affect we really didn't have any tension with Ricky. Ricky just understood that, once Riley McKenzie broke it down to him, he's like, oh, I don't want to hear it. Okay. But the tension between Ricky and Gruden was kind of fierce. It was kind of tough because, he was the play caller. He's the one told personnel packages. He's the one send Ricky in and take Charlie out, or Charlie in and send Ricky in. He was making those decisions. So I can remember we being in a game, and when we come off the field, Ricky running over to the head to the phone. They had a phone on the sideline back then, and he is cussing Gruden out upstairs, and he's making all kind of gestures. And then I look up, and I look at Gruden. Gruden is on the phone talking to Ricky and making the same gestures at him. I mean, crazy gestures. You can only imagine. So it wasn't the best of relationships, but both guys respected each other enough that they worked well within the offense.
That is really interesting. Yeah, that's crazy. Do you think part of? I mean, they're both notoriously. Especially everyone who knows Gruden. He's a notoriously strong personality. But on
Right.
Ricky's side, do you think part of it was, he came to the Eagles after being this big star in the Super Bowl winning 49ers. I mean, do you think that had anything to do with it? Did he kind of have, you just felt like he kind of, felt like he had enough clout because of what he just came from being a star running back on the Super Bowl winning Niners, or was he just kind of like that, or?
I mean, they just won a Super Bowl, I think, a year before.
Yeah, it was 94. So they win the
Yep.
Super Bowl, and then, a few months later, Ricky Waters on the Eagles, and for
And the reason why he
95.
went to the Eagles, because Ray Rhodes started out with the 49ers.
Right.
And Gruden he went up through the ranks through the 49ers. That's where
Right.
he got his start, really as a coach with the 49ers. So they knew each other. And, to Ricky, like, this is just some young cat that, was in there serving, the rest of the guys, coffee and everything. Now, here you are now a big-time coordinator. Now you want to act like I don't remember who you really were. So there was strong personalities, two alphas, trying to, sustain dominance, and all that, But I mean, it was a match made in, depending on what side of the bed each guy woke up on. That's what the match was made in.
That's so interesting.
I mean, Ricky was a strong-minded guy. He was a star. He hung out with big time, like Method Man was in the locker room, and Red Man. He held it down with big time guys in the locker room. He was that strong of a personality. But then you have Gruden, the upstart, whiz kid, offensive coordinator. Man, his play call was 322 Y stick nine X flat on two, and then everybody like it's a whole dissertation every single play because he wants to make sure he crosses every T and dot every I. So you have to be ready to run his type of offense.
That is so interesting. So you're saying because of Ricky Waters, Method Man was in the locker room in Philly sometimes?
Method Man, Red Man, of course. Yeah, he. In fact, he used to rap. He had a song out. Running Ricky Waters, was a big time tape he had out.
I had no idea about all that. That's crazy.
Yeah, you were around, but you just didn't see all the semantics that were going on in that locker room. It was different back then. Guys smoking cigarettes in the locker room. It was just way different back then.
That is so interesting. Yeah, I had no idea about all that.
Right.
And then I'm sure you remember, I believe it was 97 when, Ricky Waters, he was sent over the middle and he famously kind of alligator armed the pass because he didn't want to get hit. And then he's asked about it in the press conference afterwards. And they're like, why didn't you catch that ball, so you get the first down, even if you had to take the hit? And then he famously says, for who, for what? And, he's kind of been crucified in Philly ever since then. Do you remember that? I know you were there since through 98. Do you remember that famous?
That, Landon, to talk about that, you have to put it in perspective.
Yeah.
That was our first game of the 95 season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we're playing there. I mean, they have all stars, Hardy, Nickerson, all those guys. But he said that in the first game, and this is his introduction to the city of Philadelphia. And when he said for who, for what, it kind of broke. It broke out, and the fans were like hating him because of that. So he never really got the warm welcome that he really needed. I believe if he hadn't said that, he'd have been a major star in the city of Philadelphia, but he went out the wrong way because of that. If he hadn't said that, he would have been an icon in Philadelphia because he did so much. I mean, he used to average, I think when he was us, he averaged like 1,300 yards a year. He had 1,500 yards my rookie year in 95, his first year here. So, I mean, he could have had an amazing ride. He would have never had to buy a dinner, lunch, or anything in Philadelphia if he hadn't said that one famous quote. He'd have been, in the Raptors in Philadelphia.
Oh, that's so interesting. Did you feel like, did he almost like not realize what he was saying? Or did you just feel like he kind of, was a little bit too lax? You feel like Philly's been too tough on him because of that? Or
you know how Philly is.
Yeah.
It's survival of the fittest. And, from that point on, they just really, just didn't have much of a welcoming spirit to him after that. I mean, Philadelphia is a city that, it's a city of brotherly love, yes. But you could either be a great folk hero like, Rocky.
Yeah.
Or you can go down, the drain and they not care about you. And they're not to say they didn't care about Ricky, but he could have been so much more if he hadn't had that one famous quote. It didn't really get anything after that because Philly's a blue-collar town.
Yes.
Fans there feel as though they pay your salary from their pocket, literally. So there's a certain expectations you have to live for here. That's why it's so tough to break into talk radio and being on TV here in Philadelphia, because you got to keep it 100. You got to stand by what you're saying, and you can't just say whatever you want to say to a Philly fan base, because number one, they'll look it up and they'll bring it back to you the next time they talk to you. So they're very interested in football. They study football, and you know how tough it is to have really a personality that's not a blue collar personality here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they love everything blue collar in Philly. Let me ask you. So later on, I know you would finish your career with the Steelers after going to a couple other teams, but you would go to the Steelers, and you were still starting with them throughout all the way through the time when you guys won the Super Bowl in 2005, correct?
No, actually, I started my last game when I left Detroit. I was 4 years in Philly, 2 years in Detroit, and then all of a sudden, after I left Detroit, they labeled me a backup. My 7th year, my 6th year, and I only started a couple games that next year with Green Bay, and then after that I left Green Bay, I went to the Giants as a backup, and spent all 4 years as a backup with the Steelers. And with me, I was just blessed to have a long career, but I knew what it took to really stay in and have that staying power in the NFL. Teams knew that I could come in and start and play well like a starter. So I gave them the ability to, like, all right, we're going to try to, you're going to coach this young guy. I'm like, man, you want me to coach a young guy who I'm better than, to make him a better player than me instead of just starting me. So I really had to take that and swallow it and, put my big boy pants on and say, all right, if you're going to pay me like you're paying me, I'll do what you say. So they really paid me well just for being a backup, but a starter that, can come in and play at any time. Plus, I knew once that, that 1 year with Green Bay, I knew I had to play every position after that. So I studied center and I studied guard. So I became a versatile player. So when the team brought me in, they knew that I could play guard, center, and tackle. So, like, if they would have, you only get a certain amount of guys. You get a 46-man roster on game day. Out of 50 guys, they got to pick it down to 46 guys. And if they had a cornerback or a linebacker, or they needed to dress an extra D lineman or linebacker, they said, all right, then we'll just dress Barrett, because Barrett can play all the positions on the field. So, if we had 2 guys go out, we'd have been in trouble. But if a guard went out, they bring me in. If a center went out, they know they could bring me in. I could play center. And if the tackle come in, I played center played tackle for 7 years. So I was in a position where I could play all those positions. I learned everything about it, and it kind of made me a better broadcaster because I could read things and see things differently than most guys. It really helped me out, because when I watch it on film, I kind of watch it like I'm still playing. Like, all right, where's my shell at? All right, so that's a corner, safety corner. All right, that means it's, my strong side over here. Here's the middle linebacker. All right, here's the middle linebacker. And the way I watch the game, I see things happen, and it always brings me back to the ball. It always does. Within a second, I'm like, bam, 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 process it. So with me, it's great because I never watch it. I never see where or who has the ball at first until the play brings me to it. The players will bring me to it in their execution of what the play is going on. So I watch things a little different than the average person. Eventually, I get to where the ball is.
Oh, that's awesome. So literally, being a student and studying every position on the line, not just tackle, but guard and center, you feel like that did help you to prolong your NFL career and also made you a better broadcaster afterwards, huh?
It prolonged my career 4 extra years for the Steelers, because there were times I would go into Cowher's room. Hey, Cowher, come on, man. I'm better than this guy. You got me riding the bitch. He was turning around there. He called me pork chop. Pork chop, you know why I brought you in here. I brought you in to get those guys ready. Come on now. We talked about this last year, and here you come in there again. But I would only do it because if I didn't go in there, he'd be like, all right, I'm thinking to myself, he don't think I care about it, but he needs to know that I care about it. So I go in and tell him, but I wanted to start. I probably could have went somewhere else and started, but I love being in Pittsburgh, and the people around there. So I ended up staying there instead of going somewhere else, So prolong my career to a 12-year NFL career because I know what to do, how to do it, and really put myself in a great position from that point on.
Oh, that's really cool. So in that way, overall, even if you weren't starting all the time like you wanted, the Steelers was a good situation for you overall.
Yeah, it was a great situation for me because I was more so a player's coach. See, I it's my offensive line coach was one of the former Hogs also. Russ Grimm.
He was a coach on the Steelers?
He was a coach on the Steelers, and
Oh.
so he knew about me from talking about Ryland McKenzie. That was, his boy. They played together. Russ Grimm was one of the best guards to play the game.
Yeah.
He was the offensive line coach, and he's the one that started calling me catfish. But he knew the type of player I was. He knew the type of man I was just from word of mouth, through the league. People don't understand word of mouth means a lot in the NFL. Players talk and coaches talk all the time. So it really helped, him get a sense of who I was. So he'd tell me during practice, I'd be in practice and I'm backing up all these positions. But the first 7 plays, the starters will play. Then we'd had at that point we run 12 plays in practice for every time the whistle blew. We run our 12 plays. Well, I come in, I run the last 4 to 5 plays. But during the time when they're running those plays, the offensive line, he'd take me over the young guys. Hey, go over there and teach them how to run a tag block. Or do some scoop blocking with them, or walk them through this drill right here. So I'd be over there coaching those guys and telling them what to do, the younger guys, while the offense is over there practicing. And then he blow the whistle. He say, hey, watch out, come on. So I'd go over there and do my reps. And then I'd stay over there and be a scout team guy, and they put me a tackle. All right, we got this tackle here. It's a really good tackle. Brooks, you come over and play this tackle over here. I have to go over there and play that tackle, just because they felt enough and they thought highly enough of me that, they allowed me to be those type of players for them.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. He was a pretty good offensive line coach. I mean, like you said, he's one of the best to ever play guard. He was a pretty good coach.
Great offensive line coach, a great coach, period, because he puts things so simple. He taught the offensive line play and put it so simply. I mean, we'd only have like maybe 5 run plays in the game and maybe 10 passing plays.
And you think that's ideal?
That's ideal because you could run any of those plays with any personnel package or any formation. But he was big on this. It didn't matter what they were running. It's all about us. And if we're going to run this play, we're going to run it so many times that we're going to master it. And we're just think that we're a tougher team than you are. So we knew during practice that we were playing against the best. We were playing against the best defense in the NFL in every practice.
Yeah.
Me going against, trying to, Ben trying to fake out Troy Polamalu, who's one of the best safeties.
Yeah, Joey Porter.
Me trying to scoop block.
Yeah.
Or trying to double team our nose guard, Casey Hampton, who's one of the best nose guards in the NFL. I'm going against Joey Porter, one of the best pass rushing linebackers in the league every time. Aaron Smith, we had the beard on the other side. There were so many great players that we're playing against that when we go into games, it's easier. I've already played against the best safety. I've already played against the best linebacker core. I've already played against the best. Then on our side of the ball, they felt the same way. Alan Faneca, a Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying? He's played against you, played against him, or he's making it happen. So we played, and then you played against some of the best running backs, one of the fastest running backs in the league, and Fast Willie Parker. Then you had the most dominant running back in Bussy, Jerome Bettis. So when we finished practice, it was like, all right, we just played against the best team in the NFL. When we go out on Sunday, we already knew we won the game. We could tell by people's, other players on how they approached us in the game. We saw fear in their eyes before we even played them. So we won the game during the week. We won the game in practice because we knew once we got on the field, there was nobody that can handle us. And we won a Super Bowl because of it.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. Interesting. So Russ Grimm, as an offensive line coach, he kind of preferred to keep the playbook simple and small, and he just emphasized you guys need to just master it and execute these,
Absolutely.
okay.
It's
Is
like
that how
inside
Bill
zone.
Cowher was too?
Yep. He was a simple guy. Our offense would be like this. We got inside zone. And our inside zone was 15 slant. On 15 slant, the front side, if you're covered, you gotta reach. If you're uncovered, you gotta read. So that means if you're uncovered on the front side of the play, that meant if you're the guard and nobody's over you, you gotta read block with the tackle on the front side. So that means you two are combination blocking. If that end goes in, you're gonna pick him up. The guard's gonna pick him up, and then the tackle goes up to the linebacker. Or if he stays there, then you're gonna go up to the linebacker. The guard's gonna go up to the linebacker. Same thing on the backside. It's read or reach. And then on the backside of all our inside zone plays, you have to leave one. You got to leave one guy. So meaning if it's the end, you got to leave the end. Don't worry about blocking the end. If it's a linebacker out there and you got somebody, that means I got to reach him. I got to block him and leave that outside linebacker. So it's read or reach front side. Same thing. I'm going to leave one on the backside. That's how simple it was. So if it's outside zone, same things apply, but you just put your read one man further. So it was so simple on how to read it. We had jab. Jab is an inside zone. Jab, most people call it they call it a blast or when the linebacker goes up to the mic. We call it jab. Jab, you got to double team the front side, fan the backside. So you fan block like it's a pass play on the backside, and you run ISO block with the linebacker, the fullback going on the linebacker front side. It was just so easy to, because he simplified things so much. Passing plays, you got scat protection. That means you got 4 down in the mic. If they're running a 3-4, that means, if you're uncovered, you've got either to block with the center on the front side. You got to leave that linebacker on the backside. That's the quarterback's guy. The quarterback has to know that he's hot. He made things so simple that, you were hard pressed to make a mistake. And if you made a mistake, that just means you weren't paying attention. So when you have it that easy, it's a great system to run.
Oh, it's so awesome. I love that. That's really cool. You just see a simple smash mouth football, like you say. Yeah.
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid. They call it KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, in your earlier years, in the NFL with the Eagles, you talk about, you're starting, early in your career, and you're going against some of the best pass rushers in the history of the NFL. Who was the toughest person you ever had to block?
Started off with Mr. White.
Yeah, it really was Reggie White, huh?
He was the best player to ever put on a uniform and a helmet, bar none. I don't care what you could say Lawrence Taylor, no. In fact, even Lawrence Taylor say he's the number one guy. Everybody's saying, oh, no, it's Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice was great, but he would have to be number 2. Mr. White had to be number 1 because he was unstoppable. I equate it to this. Remember I went over your house, the first time I met you over Vi, your pop's house, and I'm there. And you know how if Vi will grab you, you knew we were grabbed. That's that grown man strength.
Yeah.
If he grabbed you, well, it's the same thing with Reggie. Here I am, a grown man. I'm probably physically fit at best. I've been, as far as my lifetime of being physically fit, I'm bench pressing 450 pounds. I could squat like 650 pounds. I'm strong as an ox. I'm young. I'm just ready to rock and roll. And I can remember the first time I played against him, he grabbed me. And there was nothing I could do to stop him. Nothing.
He was that strong.
Yes, he was that strong. And he never lifted weights. But he was so strong that he just tossed me. And the good thing was a 3-step drop because the ball was out. But he grabbed me and just tossed me. I'm like, oh, my God. I can't believe how strong this man is. But he was not only strong, he was cat quick. Man, he could do it all. So he's a man amongst boys. He's the best player ever put on a uniform.
Oh, I love hearing that because I'm such a big fan of his. Obviously, he played with my dad with Philly. But
yeah, and look at this. This is the biggest part of it. Why he's beating up on you? He's praying for you. He's giving you confidence. Oh, that's a great block right there, Brooksy. Great block. Hey, man, you're going to be a good one day as he's picking you up off the ground. He was just a great guy, great man, great man.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. So it's cool to hear you say you would take him over Lawrence Taylor, Jerry Rice. I mean, that is amazing.
No
That's so
question. No
amazing.
question.
Um, okay, so after him, you mentioned Charles Haley, you mentioned Bruce Smith. I mean, who would come after him after Reggie White?
I would have to say Charles Haley, and then one guy that would surprise you was Kevin Harvey. I mean Ken Harvey. Ken Harvey was so good, and people never heard him because he played with Washington. But Ken Harvey was one of the best pass rushing linebackers in the NFL. He gave me so many problems, so many
Huh.
problems, so many problems. He was that good. Ken Harvey, he was a great, great player. Played with Washington. He also played with the Arizona Cardinals, when they were in our division then too. They used to be in our division.
Yeah.
He was a great player.
Huh. But you would take Charles Haley over Bruce Smith?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Yes, I would.
Is it mostly a difference in speed? Is that why you like him? Is that why he was tougher to go against than Bruce Smith? Or
Bruce Smith would play the game legitly. He would play the game legitly. Charles Haley would do whatever it takes to win that rep. He would cheat. He would do stuff to you, you shouldn't do. He'd grab you in places you shouldn't grab. He'd smack you in the helmet. He was just a guy that was a dirty player, but he was a great player. Had so much respect for him, but you had to come and put your big boy pants when you're playing against him because he's gonna do whatever it takes to get to the quarterback. And even if he doesn't get to the quarterback, he could be 5 yards from the quarterback and the play stopping is dead. You let him go and he's gonna walk back the huddle. Instead of walk back the huddle, he would walk around and he'd go pat the quarterback on the hey, I was almost there. Even though he was 5 feet back. I was like, why does he always do that? So after the game we played him, Rodney P came up to me, hey man, you know why he's doing that? I said, why is he doing that? Mentally, he's trying to get in my head to make sure I speed my clock up. And I saw where he was, but him coming up and tapping me on the shoulder, it just wanted to give me a sense that, all right, I almost got there. And I say that's so smart. That's playing mental gymnastics at the position that I didn't even think about doing. So ever since then, every time after that, I wouldn't let him do it. I would hold him until the play be over with, and I sit there and hold him to keep him from going up and doing that. And he finally, he saw why I was doing it. But yeah, he's one of those type of players. He wanted to have that, whatever it takes to get in your mind and play mind games with, not just you, but the quarterback also.
interesting. Did you play much against Kevin Green or not really?
I played him a couple of times, and I, those guys were kind of easier for me because,
Interesting.
I was just as quick
Yeah.
as they were. So I could get on them and tie them up real quick.
Huh.
Him and Greg Lloyd. Greg Lloyd's one of those guys, he black belt and all that stuff. So he would get so low and all that type of stuff. But I was strong and I could hold on to them. Ken Harvey's exact opposite. He was a rush in also, but I mean, he was a linebacker that rushed in also. But he was strong also. He was one of the karate guys too. He was like a black belt. But he was just like unbelievably strong as a man, as a linebacker. And I was like, I just found it hard to block him because, most guys I could kind of shove down and they fall down. He would stay so low and his ankles would bend so well that you try to fall up down, you might accelerate him to the quarterback. So, you always had to play to the whistle with him. Every single snap, you're playing to the whistle with him.
Oh, that's crazy. So it's interesting. So yeah, had a harder time for sure with Reggie White, even Charles Haley, but Kevin Green and Greg Lloyd actually weren't as challenging for you personally.
Not really. Everybody said Simeon Rice was a great player. He was a great player, but I blocked him pretty easy. Me and him would have battles, and I would be able to get my hands on him because he'd try to run around most guys. He couldn't just run around me. I could get my hands on him, run on the quarterback. So I love playing against him, but I hated playing against Ken Harvey. Pat Swilling was also a good player, also. Pat Swilling, in fact, let me tell you a story about Pat Swilling. We're playing him down in L.A. No, were they L.A. I think it was Oakland. We play him in Oakland.
Yeah.
And I can remember we're up on him like 23-0. And Chester McLaughlin, rest his soul, he's playing against Guy McIntyre. So we're walking in at halftime, and he's talking to Guy McIntyre. And I said, man, what you talking to him for? I mean, we kicking it, we whooping them. You know what I'm saying? And he turns around to Patrick Swilling. Oh, Patrick, I think he need to see Sweet Swill. Like, who is Sweet Swill? Oh, you'll find out. I'm like, man, I ain't worried about no Sweet Swill. He's Sweet Swill. Okay, I'll see. We'll see about Sweet Swill. Hey, Randall comes back and told me, hey, man, why couldn't you just be quiet? Why couldn't you just let that alone? I ain't worried about him. I've been blocking him all day. Long story long. He said, oh, okay. We come out of the game. He said, oh, you about to see Sweet Swill. You about to see Sweet Sweet. Sweet Swill, Sweet Swill. I was like, all right, yeah. Man, he came out there first play. Boom. Slapped my hand down. Ran inside. Boom, a sack. I gave a sack and a half to him because he kept saying, oh, yeah, you're going to see Sweet Swill, Sweet Swill. I learned from that point on not to say another word to a guy, just play my game. So I gave a sack and a half to Sweet Swill because I couldn't keep my mouth shut.
Oh, that is so.
You learn stuff your rookie year. You learn a lot of stuff your rookie year.
Yeah, I bet. If we're talking about when you're playing, off offense, was there a certain, I don't know how much this came into play as much as, just the individual players, but is there a certain defensive coach that you had a hard time with, that was gave you a hard time? Like, later, I know you said you didn't start as much on the Steelers, but, I don't know if it was Rex Ryan with the Ravens an issue, or was Marvin Lewis with the Bengals and earlier with the Steelers. Like, was that tough, or did that not matter as much as just the individual players you played against?
Marvin Lewis was a great coach because he never let you know where the blitz was coming from. And I can remember my last year with the year before we won the Super Bowl. This was my second to last year in the league. And this is Ben Roethlisberger's rookie year. And we had Tommy Maddox as starting quarterback. So our first game we played, we beat them. We won. We played. We played. I don't forget who we played. We played them. We won. The next game we played against the Ravens, and they had everybody there. Anthony Pleasant. They had Ray Lewis, Suggs. They had everybody. I don't think was Suggs there. I don't think he was there. But they had. They had other guys that were just Mike McCrary. Real good defensive end. You name it, they had it. They had McAllister on one side, all these great players. And what made them a great defense is you never knew where the blitz was coming from. Long story long, they run a fire zone blitz where they just totally abandoned every single rule that comes with defense and dropped half the defense to one side. They only had one side rushing. And that one side got to Maddox and knocked him out the game. Young Ben Roethlisberger comes in. He survives. He survives the game. And, I knew once then I've never seen a defense as complicated as that. So that's probably the best defense I played against scheme-wise because they didn't care about rules. All they care about is getting to the quarterback and speeding up everything and wrecking shop. So they had good enough athletes that if you did get beat, they were fast enough to get back on them. But they knocked him out. But in turn, Big Ben won every single game after that. We went 15-1 that year and got to the playoff game against New England in the championship game. We lost the championship game. It was supposed to be an all Pennsylvania Super Bowl. It was supposed to be the Eagles and the Steelers that game. The Steelers ended up playing eventually, the Super Bowl champion Patriots, and that's where all that Spygate stuff started. They do our plays before we even do them. We're coming out on the field like, screen. Like, so Ben goes in the huddle. Hey, we got screen. I'm like, how do they know we're running a screen? They don't even know the formation. They're calling out the play. Rodney Harrison is calling out the play to Brewski before we even get to play. And they won the game. They beat us.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you feel like you said the toughest defense you were against at that time was the Ravens. That's when Marvin Lewis was the defensive coordinator, or Rex Ryan?
Marvin Lewis.
Okay. And one of the best things about him, you said, was he did a good job of like disguising where the blitz was coming from.
He ran fire zone, and you didn't know where the ball was coming, where they were going to, attack the ball from, who's going to be coming, who's not going to be coming. They even dropped Saragusa out in passing lane. Come on now. They putting Goose in passing lane?
Yeah, he's huge.
Exactly.
Crazy. Do you feel like he was tougher to go? Marvin Lewis was tougher to go against for you than Rex Ryan was?
To me, he was. I mean, we still played against a Rex Ryan defense when he was with the Jets. And they were pretty good. They had Bart Scott and all those guys, I can remember, can't wait, all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We ended up beating him the year we won the Super Bowl. We beat him the year before, and we played against was it who was it? It was Sanchez.
Yeah.
And, we had a pretty good game against, but he called some great defenses. He had some great players also, but he was tough to go against also.
Huh. You feel like Marvin Lewis is better than him though, particularly like disguising where blitzes were coming from?
Yeah, because I think he could call whatever he wanted to call with the athletes that he had.
Huh.
He knew how to take advantage of those guys. He knew those guys, and how they could play. I mean, Goose, Goose didn't move much. Goose would just grab two guys, and that kept Ray Lewis through gaps because he's grabbing, he's holding. That's where they start calling defensive hold. He would hold both the guard and the center, with like this. And those guys would just run through the gaps because, you couldn't get off. So, he knew his personnel. He knew who could do what. And, they weren't worried about getting beat deep or anything because they felt as though they would be on the quarterback so fast that you couldn't make a decision.
Huh. So you are emphasizing, though, with Marvin Lewis on the Ravens, he was blessed with all these great players and great athletes, which gave him a lot of options and versatility. That's
Absolutely. Absolutely. It gave him carte blanche to do what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it.
Interesting.
Not to say they were undisciplined.
Yeah.
But they knew tendencies. They knew in this formation, you guys would do this more times than not. So we're going to combat that and give you, that look, and we're going to bring it from somewhere else, and we're going to get there.
Huh. So you do emphasize, he benefited from all those great athletes. Do you feel like Marvin Lewis was significantly less capable later when he was the head coach of the Bengals, or not necessarily?
Yes.
Or so because he didn't have as many great athletes on the Bengals like the Ravens.
No, he didn't. He did, but he was still a great coach. I mean, he had to do everything. You know what I'm saying? When you're a head coach, you got to do everything. But he was just focused on being a defensive coordinator, one of the best in the business.
Interesting. That's really amazing to hear. Well, let's we have little time left. I really want to pick your brain. I watch your show too, but obviously, our Eagles are playing on Sunday in the wild card round against the Niners, and you're an offensive tackle. You're a former offensive lineman. You played center and guard, like you said, and what we've been talking about the whole year is the issues with the offense. So, obviously we set records last year with running the ball. We've had trouble running the ball, and there's all this talk about the offensive coordinator. What are your thoughts about what the biggest issues have been, and what do we need to do? Like, if you were going to fix everything, what would you do?
I'd do exactly what the head coach did this last week.
You would rest the starters, you mean?
Yes, I'd rest my starter. I would rest them. Everybody's like, "Oh, you messed up the second seed. You could have been the second seed." You know what? I'm not really worried about who the Eagles play. I'm not worried about that.
Or even if we have to go on the road sooner than later.
I don't worry about that. What I was worrying about, the worst unit on the offense was the offensive line this year. They were not playing up to expectations or ability. It seemed like, a couple of those guys flunked Stoutland University this year. They just weren't playing very well at all. And the biggest percentage of those guys are hurt. Like, they needed this rest. Cam Jurgens was held together by duct tape and bubble gum. He's a walking wounded. His back and everything else, knees, everything else is hurting him. Dickerson, his legs are hurting him, his knees, ankle, everything. But, those guys are playing hard. Even Jordan Mailata. Jordan Mailata's playing. He hasn't been on the injury report, but he's the walking wounded also. He just doesn't, he just fights through it. And then we got Lane back also. And because we got these guys back, I think it's going to change how you call the game, number one, and how these guys play up front, number two. I think Jordan will be, Jalen will be a lot more confident because he's got a starting right tackle back. He can go through his reads a little better because he knows Lane is going to block things down on that right side. And what the rest of those guys got, I think they did some self-evaluation. They got the needed rest they needed. They sat out. They didn't do anything. this is going to help them more than them going in and getting that second seed. Because say what you want to say, they think that Packers team is going to lay down for that Chicago team. No, they still have a great defense, even though they lost their best player in Parsons. But I love their defense before that. I love their defense. Their defense is, in fact, their 2 linebackers. I was trying to get our guys to draft those guys up front. Wyatt, coming from Georgia, and then I forget the other kid's name, Ed, something like that from Texas A&M. Both of those guys are playing phenomenally now. So their defense is still pretty good. Their secondary is pretty good. They're going to be just fine against them, and they'll play a solid game against that Bears team. That's why it's a pick'em game. The Bears only favored by 1, and they're at home. Come on now. So I really didn't care. I really didn't care who we played against, because now we're healthy. They'll be able to go in with a better sense of what they can call. Everybody's on Kevin Petula, the offensive coordinator, about him not calling the right plays. Well, I'm sad to say this, and I'm sorry I have to say this, but no, I'm not sorry. The reason why he calling the calls he's calling is because those guys should be able to play that play. They should be able to execute the play, but they haven't been able to execute it. So 9 times out of 10, it's not his fault for the bad play call.
Really? You feel like it's an issue with execution on the players?
Exactly. They were undisciplined for about 5 weeks this season. I mean, undisciplined, jumping off sides, pre-snap penalties, illegal formations. Come on now, stuff that you just can't do and think that you can keep drives going. It's hard to call 3rd and long all the time. You only get this many plays at 3rd and long. But you got 3rd and short, you got about this many plays. So it didn't matter what they called. Those guys up front had terrible games. They missed blocks. That's why Saquon, everybody said, Saquon got him. Saquon, as soon as he touches the ball, there's somebody hitting him 3 yards in the backfield.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do as far as play calls to stop that. You're going to be in a position where those guys they got to play better. So with them getting rest, I think they're going to play a lot better, and you'll see a much different football team than you saw even last week. Dan, I'm not worried about the Commanders. They're playing against our 2nd string guys.
Yeah, we almost won.
And they've still barely beat us.
Yeah.
They barely beat us.
Yeah.
With our 2nd string guys? Come on now.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, yeah. I mean, I follow everyone. I follow Seth Joyner's thing too, and it just seems like everyone was, especially after the Lions beat the Bears, was pretty mad about this whole resting the starters. But it's refreshing to hear you say that you agree with it, and you think the rest was more important than getting the 2nd seed, getting a better, more likely we get, more home field games in the division round and stuff. You feel like the rest is more important.
The rest is way more important. So now you have a healthier offensive line going to this game. You've got Lane Johnson back. I mean, the only thing that kept them from playing bully ball like they played last year was the health of his line, number one. But I mean, Tyler Steen's the only guy that's new in this entire offense. And I truly believe that once he gets Lane on one side and a healthy Cam Jurgens, because he played horrible this year. And he still made it to the Pro Bowl, but he'll tell you he didn't play well at all this year. He will now be a lot healthier going into this game. It's going to help him out a lot, tremendously, and I think you'll have more confident blocker in him, especially when you have a healthier Dickerson on one side of him, and Steen will be more healthy. I mean, Steen will be more of a ball player because Lane Johnson will demand that from him. He'll demand it. So, yeah, this is going to be it'll be a whole different offense than a lot of people are going to be, used to seeing.
And largely because we're healthy on the line, you say. And
absolutely,
so we
absolutely.
Can. Okay. And like you say, we have more versatilities of what we can call when the line is healthy.
Yes, exactly. They're healthier. You call what you want, but you can call a bad play. But it's your job as a player to make the coach right. And people don't understand that. It doesn't matter what you call. Your players have to make you right. And that's the biggest thing, So you'll see a much different thing than what you saw the past couple of weeks. They'll be a lot more fresher. They'll cut down on the penalties that they have, man. That's the biggest thing, discipline football. And people act like when you run the ball, you got to, you got to have these monstrous runs. You got 60-yard runs or 50-yard runs. No. A good running game is 4 yards here, 3 yards here. Now it's third and 3. You know what I mean? Now it's third and manageable. We weren't like that because we had all these times where they're either jumping off sides, pre-snap penalties, doing stupid stuff, and now we're behind the chains. Now, you're going 3 and out. Run the ball consistently. I won a Super Bowl because we ran the ball 100 more times than we threw the ball with Big Ben his second year. This is before Big Ben was Big Ben. He was just Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
We ran the ball 100 times more. 100 times more.
Which is ideal, you're
Run the
saying.
ball. Yes. Yeah. And then we had a great defense. Great defense. Kind of the same thing that we have to have here.
Yeah.
We've got to stay consistent. And then our great defense will keep them guys from scoring. And we need to stay on the field a lot longer. Give those guys some rest. We must control the line of scrimmage, control the clock, run, and not abandon the run. We'll be just fine against whoever we play.
Do you feel like we can, again, basically, obviously we had this record-setting year running the ball last year. Do you feel like in this playoff run, do you feel like can we afford to run the ball as often as we did last year? Like, does it need to be a little bit less because teams might be trying to stack the box, trying to stop Saquon? Like, is there kind of an in-between spot? Like, do we need to pass the ball a little bit more than last year or what?
Depending on what's going on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, we can't just run and, bump our heads against the wall.
Sure.
We just can't have any negative plays.
Yeah.
The longer we can stack, if you're going to stack the box, I'll take Devontae and AJ all day, one-on-one. Because in order for you to stack that box like that, you got one-on-one on the outside. They're not that foolish. And then when we get more under center, play more in the center, that's what's really going to screw teams up because, all right, we're going to be in 12 personnel, one running back, one tight end, one running back, two tight ends, and 12 personnel. And that's a run-favored defense and have Jalen come on the center. Once Jalen gets under center, those linebackers have to respect the fact that he may run the ball. So they have to step up. What does that do? It causes that cushion to get a lot more open to the safety. Now you have the best route runner, probably one of the best route runners in the league in Devontae Smith. And then you got a bully on the other side with A.J. Brown who can run a slant and out cuts, and out and ups just as good as anybody in the league. So it's like pick your poison. You want the big play over the top, or do you want to stop the run? You got to pick what you want to do because they'll be able to do good on both attempts. But I really think they're going to throw guys out of this, loaded boxes, allow us to run the ball more consistently, and the offensive lines will secure the line of scrimmage for once. Those double teams will double team all the way to the linebacker instead of getting off so early. Secure the line of scrimmage. It could be a long day for an already hobbled 49er defense. They had to play their guys this week. They had to play in order to get in and get seating.
Yeah.
We did. So they're going to be a lot more tired. They're going to travel over the country to come out to play us. They just came from over here and they got to go back. This is a decided advantage for this team.
What is your opinion? The other thing that's been talked about a lot this year with the offense is Jalen. Do you feel like when we are passing the ball, again, I know you already said that a lot of it comes down to the players just need to execute, but between Kevin Patullo and Jalen himself, do they need to let Jalen loose a lot more? Like, do you feel like he's been too conservative this year, or do you feel like it's been good that he's kind of been really conservative and just tried to make sure he doesn't turn the ball over? And do you feel like he's, does he need to play better? I mean, what are your thoughts about Jalen Hurts for the playoff season?
Playoffs bring no holds barred. You got to open up the offense. You got to let him be that +1. That +1 being he's got to run the ball more. He had run the ball the entire year. He made it through the year. He's healthy. You got to open up his legs. Now defense is going to have to worry about him. Can't worry about the guys on the outside. You can't worry about Saquon when you got to check that backside and make sure Jalen didn't run it for 20 yards down the field. And that's a big thing that defenses, haven't been doing because Jalen's been staying in the pocket. Now you run boot protection. Instead of him throwing it, he now has the ability to go out there and get 10 yards, get a first down. That's a facet of this offense that we haven't done all year. You got to turn it up this time. You're going to have to make sure you keep an eye on Jalen, which is going to keep holes open up for Saquon. If that end crashes down and he pulls it, Jalen can take it the distance. He's been good enough that he could do it. He may not be as fast as he was early in his career, but he's still fast enough to go out there and be a factor in the running game.
Nice. Do you feel like, as far as him passing the ball, does he need to be a little bit more, of a gunslinger now that the playoffs are starting? Does he need to be able to take more risks, throw it towards the middle of the field a little bit more than he has? Or how do you feel about that?
I love him being a game manager. Landon, he could be a game manager. He can go out there and really dictate to the defense what he wants to. We've seen this guy on the biggest stage outduel the best quarterback in the NFL. He's outdueled him both times he's played against him. In fact, the 3 times he's played against him, he's outdueled him. When he played him in the preseason, played him in the regular season. He is a daggone good quarterback when you just let him be Jalen. You can't admit it. He's not going to force it. He's not going to make a lot of mistakes. And, and that's one of the biggest things you can have guys do is not make mistakes at the quarterback position. He's good about not making mistakes. So, I love how he's going to play. If you ask him to go out there and throw deep ball, he throws one of the prettiest deep balls in the league. He's got a good chemistry with a lot of guys. And watch Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson is a weapon right now also. Jahan Dotson can play that third receiver. So he can open it up. And we still haven't really used Dallas Goedert. So there's still some weapons in his repertoire that he's very comfortable with using. And he'll be just fine in the passing game also. We just need to make sure he can do it from under center. If we do it from under center, he could have a field day against any defense. And then we also broke out the passing game with no backs, empty back set. That worked for us also. So we got a lot of stuff that, defenses are going to have to plan for. And I don't think this 49ers defense is ready for what they're going to give them on Sunday.
Do you feel fairly confident about us going all the way? Even if you don't think for sure we will, but do you feel like we're good enough that we could handle any team in the division round, the championship round, whether it's the Seahawks, the Rams, and, whoever we play in the Super Bowl, whether it's the Broncos, the Patriots? Or do you feel like we're good enough that we could, repeat and handle any team that we have to play?
I think that we have the best roster in the NFL right now. We have the best roster still in the NFL. And if we can get our offense to come to play, there's no team that can really handle us. Our defense is fine. Our defense is a top 5 defense. They can cover and rush the passer just as good as anybody. Hunt is playing at a phenomenal level. Davis is playing at a phenomenal level. And now Jalen Carter's back playing at that level we thought he could play. You got Zach Bond playing as he should have been a Pro Bowler this year. Or I think he may be a Pro Bowler this year. But he should have been a Pro Bowler this year. He'll probably make, he'll make guys think about it, before they throw passes. I think Campbell's in a position where he's starting to learn. He's a rookie. Jahan Campbell's a rookie, but his skill set really fits against this defense because they're going to try to pass the ball. And I really think his coverage skills are what made him a great player for us. And his coverage skills are just what we need against this team that we're about to play. If we can get to Kobe Dean, that's just another arsenal in our repertoire that he's a great run stopper and he's a great blitzer. So we have the talent to do it. Vic Fangio has a lot of toys in his toy box that he can break out against them. And I think that, that's going to be the key matchup. Fangio versus calling an offense with Shanahan. Shanahan versus Fangio. Match made in, it's a heavyweight match. You know what I'm saying? It's a match that I want to see the entire year. This is going to be the match of matches.
Oh, that's epic. I'm really excited. I'll close there. Barrett, thank you again so much for coming on my show. Really appreciate it, sir.
Man, man, it's great, man. I'm glad to see you you're doing big things, man. You don't know, but your pops, he's also the first person to get me involved. I started at the station that he started out at, NBC. And, he showed me the ropes, man. So, there's so many ties between me and you that I can't thank you and your family enough, man. This is great, great things you're doing right now. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, thank you again. You're doing me a solid right now. So again, thank you again, sir. We'll stay in touch.
Anytime, Landon, anytime, all right?